Today, I'll explain the 4 key points of generating power through your follow-through. First is the leg drive, and second is hip rotation. Third is meeting the ball in front to unify your power, and fourth is acceleration and braking. What is power through the follow-through? It's the force you generate after contacting the ball, especially from a compact position with no backswing. I will demonstrate 2 types of topspin shots. This is the first technique, and this is the second. This second method, generating power without a large backswing, is what separates advanced players. What amateur players lack is this burst of power through the point of contact. Most amateurs rely heavily on their backswing, which makes the contact itself too soft and powerless. As a result, your loops often land as half-long balls. A half-long ball can land on the table, but it lacks that aggressive, forward kick. If you can deliver your spin and power to the opponent's end line, the quality of your shot will be much higher. Most amateurs have issues after making contact. Your loop is easy to block because you consistently hit half-long balls instead of aiming for the end line. A half-long ball loses speed and spin by the time it reaches the opponent, making it much weaker. Therefore, you must aim to land your shots deep near the end line. Defenders who back away from the table can't handle the speed, and those who block close can't handle the heavy spin. So, when you loop, always focus on accelerating through the ball. Most amateurs put all their energy into the backswing and then go soft on contact. In contrast, professional players keep their backswing compact and close to their body, focusing on that acceleration through the ball. Notice how my arm stays close to my body. There isn't much space for a big backswing. My swing starts from my thigh, and I use my body and late-stage acceleration to drive through the ball with my arm. Amateurs do the opposite, a huge backswing followed by a weak contact. The first key point is your legs. You must be in a low stance when looping. I don't recommend straightening up. A common backhand mistake is jumping up during the stroke. The moment your body rises, your power dissipates. The correct way is to either stay low or to drive forward with your hip. Against backspin, your force direction must be back to front, not down to up. When your center of gravity is low, driving forward will naturally create a slight upward trajectory. Do not intentionally jump upwards. This will break your power chain and disperse your force. Your body should always feel the power transferring from back to front. Some players ask, but shouldn't you lift a backspin ball upwards? When you drive forward from a low stance, your body will naturally find the correct position and angle. The biggest mistake is actively jumping up, as this body angle will interfere with the feeling of power in your hand. Stay low and drive forward. The reason you feel like your legs have no power is that you're just pushing straight up from a static position. You should use your right leg to drive forward, almost like you're about to drop into a kneel. You just need the feeling of hip rotation and forward drive, not just turning in place. The movement doesn't need to be huge. Even a small awareness of this will create momentum that pulls your arm forward. Even if you can only achieve 20% of a professional's movement, it's far better than not moving at all. When you consciously drive forward with your leg, power will naturally be transferred. Using only your arm is like a child hitting. Using your body is like an adult. So, staying low is critical. If you stand up straight, you can't generate any power from your legs. First, get a little lower. Second, drive your right thigh forward to engage your legs. Even a tiny movement is better than none. Once you master this feeling, you'll love it and will start to apply it to your backhand as well. The second key point is the hip. Most amateurs don't drive with their hips. The principle is that your hip angle must change in sync with your arm's movement. A lack of coordination between body and arm happens when your arm starts to move, but your body doesn't follow. This disconnect occurs because as your arm swings back or forward, your torso remains static, leading to an uncoordinated feeling. To synchronize your body and arm, follow this rule: where the hand goes, the body goes. Uncoordinated movements almost always involve a lot of arm swing with very little body movement. Coordination means your arm and body move as one unit. Think of a dancer. Fluid movement requires the whole body to work together. If only the arm moves while the body is stiff, the shot is rigid. This is why professionals emphasize a compact, connected body motion. First, master the coordinated movement of your arm and body in the same direction, then you can work on making it more compact. Just imagine, wherever your hand is, your body should be aligned with it. For example, in your ready position, your hand is in the middle. As you take your backswing, your body must rotate back with your hand. For a backspin ball, your hand goes lower, so your body must not only rotate back but also lower its center of gravity. Without this coiling and loading phase, how can you possibly drive your hip forward? You can't drive your hip forward because after your shot, your shoulders, knees, and hips are all facing the table squarely, leaving no room for rotation. If I turn my body sideways, I create the space I need to rotate. When the ball is too fast for a full stroke, I must face the table more squarely. But when I have an opportunity to loop, I must fully prepare, like drawing a bow and arrow. Fully drawn means your center of gravity is low and your body is coiled. Only from this fully loaded position can you loop the ball effectively. So, the second step is to ensure your body movement facilitates your arm swing. The body must lead the arm. Your body rotation determines the power potential, like how far back you draw a bow. You must fully rotate before you execute the shot. Your body must be prepared to support the arm. If you rely only on your arm, your error rate in matches will be very high. You don't have to move exactly like me, just aim to get closer to the professional technique. The difference in power transfer between moving your body a little and not moving it at all is night and day. The third point is meeting the ball in front. Not doing this means your arm goes soft at the exact moment of contact. For us, the point of contact is just the beginning of our power generation. You must learn to drive your arm through the ball. The motion should be, relax on the backswing, then grip and accelerate through the ball at contact, not relax on contact. If you hit the net when trying to drive forward, it means you are lifting the ball up instead of brushing it with friction. You can loop any amount of backspin if you generate enough friction. The main problem is that at the moment of contact, you instinctively lift with your arm and forearm. This bad habit often comes from practicing the basic forehand drive for too long, where you're taught to snap your forearm towards your forehead. This habit makes it difficult to transition from the flat, forward motion of a drive to the arced, brushing motion of a loop, and from driving through the ball to just lifting it. Because you're close to the table, there's no time for body rotation, so you default to using just your arm. You must change your concept from the immediate forearm snap of a drive to the drive forward first, then snap of a loop. At the moment of contact, your forearm shouldn't go upwards. It needs to drive forward first, then wrap. The correct motion is to drive through the ball and then wrap. Not an immediate wrap or lifting with the upper arm when you hit the net. Lifting with your upper arm will only produce that easy-to-block, half-long ball we talked about. When looping backspin, the moment you drive forward and make contact, the brushing action is already complete. From that point on, you should treat the ball as if it were a topspin ball. Power generation happens in phases. So, after the backswing and upon making contact, your arm and forearm must continue to drive forward through the ball. You need to impart this forward force to get that late-stage acceleration. You must feel like you are pushing the ball forward. After contact, your arm must drive primarily forward and slightly upward. Once you've made solid contact, you move to the fourth point, the braking motion. In a forehand drive, coaches emphasize snapping the forearm. This is a skill, but how you use your upper arm and forearm must adapt to the incoming ball. For example, against heavy backspin, a high arc loop is generated mostly with the forearm. If you use your upper arm, the loop will have very little spin. If the ball is heavy but you want to power loop it, you might use more of your upper arm and less forearm snap. If the ball is a slightly high, half-long ball with less spin, you'll use less upper arm and a quicker forearm snap. The forearm snap in a drive is an active motion because you're close to the table, and using your upper arm would send the ball long. However, the forearm wrap in a loop should be driven by momentum, it should be a natural follow-through. Actively snapping it on a backspin ball will cause you to hit the net. A natural wrap means that after driving through the ball, your forearm continues its arc naturally due to momentum. It's like swinging your arm in a warm-up, you swing it forward, but it naturally circles back around. That's the feeling of momentum. After you drive through the ball, the wrapping motion shouldn't be overly forced. It provides both acceleration and a controlled stop. You see, my follow-through isn't excessive. Pay attention to the distance between my paddle and my head. The entire motion is about releasing the power forward, and the wrap is simply the natural consequence of that momentum, which brings the arm to a controlled stop. This motion allows my forearm to bend and brings the stroke to a halt. If the ball is going long, I can use this wrapping motion to rein in the power and keep the ball on the table. Sometimes my follow-through has to be more vertical, especially if the ball has very heavy backspin. A forward wrap would go into the net. So here, you need more of an upward wrap instead. Against topspin, you use more of a hitting motion, so you need an active forearm snap because you are closer to the table and the stroke is smaller. If you don't snap your forearm on a close to the table block or drive, the ball will fly off the end. But for a loop, you're about a meter from the table. After creating the initial arc, your arm's follow-through naturally brakes, accelerates, and controls the ball's trajectory. If you only drive forward, the arc will be too long. You need to combine that forward drive with a slight inward wrap to control the shot. You should not be actively trying to snap your arm at the moment of contact. When using this follow-through and braking motion, some players are afraid to drive forward because the ball goes long. The reason it goes long is that at the end of your stroke, your upper arm and forearm are not distinct. No matter how much power you use, your arm must have a final bending state, where the upper arm and forearm actions are separate. Think of your forearm as the end of a nunchuck. You must control that final whip-like action. I must control that nunchuck end, the forearm, and wrap it inward slightly. If I just let it fly forward, the ball will go long. Regardless of the power, my forearm must ultimately act like the whip at the end of the nunchuck and bend. It should never be a straight, rigid stick. Your arm is not a single club. When I swing, the initial force comes from the upper arm. Once it's extended, the second part of the nunchuck, the forearm, will always wrap around. You must accelerate forward, and then, like the second section of a nunchuck, allow that energy to wrap back in. That's how you unlock the power loop. If you don't drive forward, accelerate, and wrap, you will make a mistake. The timing, frequency, and magnitude of the coordination between your upper arm and forearm are all critically important.